Hey everybody, welcome to Wellness Wednesdays with Stephanie. I'm Stephanie Buckland, your host, and I am super excited and so delighted to be here today with Elizabeth Kipp. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thanks, Stephanie. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for
I'm
asking.
yes, I'm so pumped about this conversation because we have so much to talk about. You and I like I mentioned in one of our messages, I feel like we're soul sisters because we've kind of been on a similar journey. We've got a lot of similar stories, and there's just so much that you do that resonated with me. And like, okay, this is going to be an amazing conversation. So buckle your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be amazing. So, Elizabeth, let's give our audience a little introduction: who you are, what you do, and what kind of magic shows up in the world as a result.
Oh my goodness. So, so I'm a stress management and historical trauma specialist, a yoga informed addiction recovery coach, ancestral clearing practitioner, and a betrayal trauma recovery coach as well. That sounds like a lot of hats, right? They're all things that I do under stress management as the umbrella, but it's like, okay, that's stress management is kind that's the ocean. And so I'm paring it down. These are the these are the parts of the ocean that I'm in, right? So so that's what I do. Um I my kind of where it came from was I lived with chronic pain for 40 years. The doctor said I wouldn't heal from it. I pushed back and then I said, you just watch me. And it just took me a while. But I finally found a doctor who understood the nature of chronic pain. I walked into his program with 40 years of chronic pain and walked out 52 days later with no pain. And it wasn't like I'm so special. He had a 94% success rate in his program. Yeah. So we can heal without medications. And part of my problem was medication because that was the only answer all the other doctors had for me. So,
Yep.
so anyway, so part of uh, part of that program was my counselor said to me, there's an 80% relapse rate in the first year.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, A, I'm doomed. And B, what's wrong with the model that we're using for recovery from addiction? Because I was in there for treatment for drug addiction and I went into the pain management arm of that center. And I was like, 20% is the best we can do. What's wrong with this model? Right? We got to get a better model. So I, in that moment, which was back in 2013, I decided to dedicate my life to moving the needle on that. And the way that I do that is these different aspects of stress management. Um, we can get into that later, but the magic that shows up in my world is people's nervous systems calm down enough so that they can go out and play again.
Oh, I love that.
And they find ease and serenity in their body and joy in life.
Yeah.
So that's the magic.
That's beautiful. You know, I am kind of a conundrum because I have chronic pain. I live in pain every single day, and yet I also live a pretty joyful life. I'm a very
Mhm.
happy person. And so this was, more than a decade ago, I realized I had a choice of the way that I showed up in the world.
Mhm.
And so my attitude makes such a huge difference in
Yeah.
how I navigate through this life,
Uh-huh.
but it does not take my pain away.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by this
Yeah.
journey. So
Well,
let's,
I would love to just comment on that.
oh yeah.
That was part of how I hung in there for as long as I did. Because first of all, I swear to God, my ancestors gave me the gift of gratitude. I came in with that. So I had that thing. And the other thing was like, well, I physically don't feel all that great. I'm having all this pain and, I can still live with joy. So I had a similar path. I just was able to clear the pain. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to get into my journey because, well,
Mhm.
then it's not about you. So let's talk more about you.
Right.
I am super curious about the chronic pain and clearing that chronic pain.
Uh,
It's, I read The Body Keeps a Score. I understand the ideas of holding trauma. I understand these concepts. Um, so let's get a little deeper. Like, how does it work? How do we actually clear this stuff?
Well, yeah, that's a we could go on and on about
A
that. They
loaded
write books
question, I
about it.
know.
And I did write a book about that, and so did the guy the doctor that took me through treatment. So this is a big question. But I'd like to just lay the landscape for the listeners about what are we even talking about with chronic pain. So chronic pain is any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial. It all sends the same signal to the brain. It hurts. The brain can't tell the difference between like a broken bone that's not healing and a broken heart. And emotional pain can journal over into physical pain, in fact, but vice versa. And listen, I was in such denial about the emotional burden that I was carrying because that's the way it kept me, for me personally, it was my journey. Um, that's the way I kept safe in the world was like, oh, I had grew up in a dysfunctional family. And so, stuff would happen and I had to keep moving. I had to keep like, what's the next thing just to stay safe. So I
Right.
denied, oh, that thing just happened and it was horrible. And I got in this habit of denying so that when the actual physical chronic pain thing showed up, which started when I was well, I kind of had it as a kid, but it kind of blossomed as I grew older.
Hmm.
I had no idea that there was an emotional component until I got into Dr. Prescott's program. Not a, and he had to prod me
Of
and
course,
and
yes.
control me and kind of like because I was just like shut like a box, I was like
Sure.
I had locks on my locks, So I'm just saying, physical, emotional, spirit, it's all the same to the brain sending a signal it hurts.
Yes,
And
yes.
so that's a thing. Now, the other thing is that we all have, this, but maybe your listeners don't. We have this thing in us called what we call the stress response, which is our response to a threat in the environment. It can be perceived or real, it doesn't matter which. When we see a threat, like boom, we have a whole bunch of physiology and psychology that we bring to bear to meet the threat. Boom, we meet the threat goes away, stress response goes back into the off position. In chronic pain, the stress response gets stuck in the on position. And so we're constantly meeting at the nervous system level, we're constantly meeting a threat. So we're running, we're
Hmm.
hiding, we're fighting, we're doing some of those things. We're fawning, we're doing and some of the little more subtle versions of that. And
Yeah,
and the nervous system, we can't heal when we're in that state.
exactly. The body will not heal. It stays
And
in
this is this is this
a
is
heightened
this
awareness. Exactly.
Bessel van der Kolk didn't say this in The Body Keeps the Score. He didn't lay that out, but he said it. He just didn't say it like that, right? So it's a little more kind of a little more richness in the landscape of what he brought in, which is a classic book. Um, I think there's a little bit of for people that haven't read that personally, because I've read it with a group of women who were in chronic pain, and we had to kind of over a few sections because there's a fair amount about sexual abuse in there. So I'm just giving you like
Yes.
a heads up.
Yes, it
It's
was a very
that
triggering book.
you need to be like you need to be with somebody if you're going to go through that book and you've had that kind of an experience because it's or you got to know anyway. I'm just saying like
Have a therapist, have someone to talk to. Exactly.
have support
Yes,
if you're going to go through that book. Um,
agreed.
anyway, so so what happens in the brain? So we have the stress response, it's stuck, what's happening in the brain? Well, like I said, the brain is constantly on the lookout and it really can't rest and heal in that state. Uh,
Mm.
it's always agitated. And if we are sleeping, which I had this for years, we're not sleeping deeply or we're sleeping very short. Our sleep cycle is erratic and not healthy, really. It's not a healthy one. So so our sleep is threatened. We've got a lot of stress hormones that are getting spun off all the time, which creates a lot of brain fog. The emotional center of the brain is affected so that we have an accentuated negative mind. We have a little bit of a negative mind anyway, and as in healthy state, just it kind of keeps us safe. Right. So
Hmm.
like we see something new in the environment and the first thing we do is no. And that keeps us safe. And then we go, oh yeah, that's okay. Right. Or maybe, but we at first is no, right? Yes, and maybe or after. So we have this negative bias, but in chronic pain, it gets accentuated big time. So that
Yeah.
now I hate this pain. Uh, it's bad. The world's bad. The thing that wherever the pain came from, it's bad. And now I'm going to turn it on myself, and I'm bad. And that's what happens. Like and you and I were able to tap into some some space of happiness in that space because you probably have a lot of gratitude too, because we were able to
Yes.
find some kind of balance, but we're still unbalanced in that state. We're
Oh,
still
sure.
there's still
Sure.
a heavy, thing. We can feel it. So
Yeah.
so the other thing that happens so we got that emotional component. The other thing that happens is our memory gets crazy. And I like our short-term memory gets affected and now we can't remember stuff like where did I just put my keys? Now I get to the point when I was right before I went into that pain program with Dr. Prescott, I got to the point where I could watch a movie the night one night and I would get up and I'd go to sleep and I'd go to get up the next morning and watch it again like it was brand new, like I didn't remember any of it. That's how affected my short-term memory was. And
Wow. Yeah.
I have an amazing memory now. I mean, I was able to rebuild all that, but yeah, that used to crack me up, but I didn't understand at the time. I didn't really understand that this was a real aberration in the brain. But
Yeah.
right. So anybody who's in chronic pain, and you're sitting here nodding your head, everybody that's in chronic pain knows what I just talked about. They've experienced it, right?
Yep, yep.
And
So a little bit of my journey,
oh yeah, please share. Yeah.
I have been experiencing chronic pain for, oh man, it started in my 20s, about 27, with carpal tunnel syndrome and tendonitis in my elbows, and it is just
Mm.
like all these years later. So it's 25 years later, 23 years later. I'm going to be 50 this year. Um, but all these years later, I am still in this chronic pain
Mhm.
situation, and it just comes and goes. Sometimes it's more intense, sometimes it's less intense. But what's happened lately in the last few years is because of hip pain, I have instability when I walk, and I've fallen over and over and over and over again and keep injuring myself.
Oh,
So that's part of the problem is like I'm in these acute injuries on top of the chronic pain. And I mean, I'm in it right now. I have back pain. I'm not moving very well because I pulled a muscle. So like this is my life. And so I found a path that allowed me to a lot of times I feel disassociate from the
that's
pain,
yeah, yeah. Well,
right? And I
we
think that's
major in
one of the
that.
big things we do
Yeah, in
in
chronic
pain. We
pain, we
disassociate.
major in dissociation,
Yeah.
and that
So
would
let's
be
talk about disassociation.
yeah. So that's actually a strategy that we use to keep ourselves safe. It's another strategy, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
so what's interesting about that, Stephanie, So I'll be 12 years cleared of this mid-September, which is about when this is going to get posted. And I remember when I left the program, Dr. Prescott said, use the tools every day for the rest of your life. And I was like, yes, sir. Because I walked into that program not having any idea that there were any tools at all. I had been getting along by my wits the whole time and
Right.
with, opiates and benzodiazepines. So that's, that was, and I did have some Reiki, and I did have regular acupuncture, and I did have regular massage, and I had a very gentle, kind of hip opening, keep me limber yoga practice. And I had a meditation practice, but all of them were veiled, or the effects of all of them were veiled because of the drugs I was on.
Right.
So that was a big piece of it. And uh, so anyway, um, uh, it was difficult to kind of get past all of that. Um, and I went into Peter's program, and oh my God, there's tools. Use the tools every day. So I have a morning practice, and I sit down and I do a breath practice that is tells my nervous system, this is how we're doing life. We're not doing life fast and ragged in the breath. We're doing it long and slow, right, kind of thing, or whatever the breath pattern is for the day. And I remind myself that there's another way to live, right? There's another. I have a choice in how I'm responding, right? I actually have some say in this. One of the most important things, and I'm not talking about you, I'm just talking about chronic pain in general. One of the most important things Dr. Peters said to me, the first thing he said in his class when I sat there the first day, I couldn't believe he said this. He said, what are you doing to contribute to your pain? And I'm telling you,
It's your personal responsibility.
I went bonkers because I was like, I didn't say anything, but in my head, I went bonkers because I was like, what are you talking about? How dare you say that in this room of all places? You don't have chronic pain. You don't know what it's like. It's doing it to me. I got no power here, right? That was
Right?
that was my
Style.
that was my orientation at the time.
Yep.
And I went through this freaking tantrum in my brain, and halfway through there, I'm like, hang on a minute. And I ran the question in my head again. What are you doing to contribute to your pain? And I was like, holy, are you kidding? I actually have power here. He's implying that I have power in my pain experience, which it never occurred to me that I did. And so he had my attention with one question. It was like,
Wow.
okay, dude, you have my attention. What else you got? Second thing he said was, which got me attitude again. Second thing he said was, don't judge the moment. Again, my attitude was like, dude, I'm just sitting here minding my own business, not judging anything or anyone except you right now and your comment. And I'm laughing at myself at my, my behavior, but I'm all spicy, right? And
Sure.
and and I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. He's talking about my pain, which I've been judging as bad my whole life. So two light bulb moments in two questions shifted my whole landscape.
Mm,
It was amazing.
wow.
It
What
was,
a powerful experience.
oh my
How long
God.
how long was that program?
Well, I was in it for 52 days. That program was only there for 3 years. It's not there anymore. He passed away in 2016, but he left us this beautiful book,
Excellent.
Conquer Chronic
Conquer
Pain.
Chronic Pain, an innovative mind body approach. We will put a
Yeah,
link for that book
yeah,
in the description for you all because I know there's a lot of people out there that
Yeah.
are experiencing chronic pain and they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
Personally, I've been referred to, I think I'm on my fourth pain management clinic. I've fired three of them because all they want to do is give me drugs. And I'm not interested in
Yeah.
their drugs.
Yeah.
I don't want drugs. I want a holistic, healthy
Yeah.
lifestyle practice and solution that does not involve pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So I
I
think
get
it's
it.
fantastic that you've got a series of tools that you
Yeah.
can use
Yeah.
to firstly to heal the chronic pain and to release it from your body, but then secondly to have practices that keep it at bay, which is
Right.
beautiful.
Well, it's really
Yeah.
like I was able to clear that chronic pain in 52 days, but here's the kicker. What have I been doing for 12 years as I use the tools every day? What's been happening there?
Yeah.
I'm rewiring the stress habit that
Mhm.
was feeding the chronic pain in the first place. Because, honey, let me tell you, it's still there. The like, what's the next thing? I gotta get there. Like the pressure. I grew up under some pressure, so
Sure.
I grew up under obviously dysfunctional family. All of us grow up if we're growing up in pretty much on the planet anymore. And
Right.
if we're on some remote tribe in Africa or something like, right, we're all growing up in a world that's under pressure, right? So we feel it, and that's how we live our life. Uh-oh, what's the next thing? And so what happens there? Well, and this is typical of a chronic pain sufferer and in chronic stress, they're really the same thing.
Sure.
Um, I just don't have physical pain anymore. I just have this habit of I got to rush into the next moment, right? So and then things that I do, I tend to do with a little bit of tension. Like I'm actually applying the breath as we talk because there's a lot of
As am I.
energy in this conversation.
Yep.
But just to keep my nervous system calm instead of super activated. I'm activated, but I'm not so activated that that it's detrimental and
Sure.
and that I can't think straight, right? So so really important to kind of understand that we're rushing into the next moment, and as we're rushing into the next moment, we're comparing what we think is going to happen in the next moment with what happened in the last moment, and we're not even here.
Right.
We're not present. So now I'm missing all the information that's available in the present moment. And so my practice every day is how can I build presence? That's the work. How can I
It
build
is the
presence?
work.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Absolutely. I have a mindfulness practice that started so I attended Ventura College had this holistic health studies program when I was in Ventura. Unfortunately, the program doesn't exist anymore, but I learned so much about healing that at the end of that, when I graduated, I just wanted to scream from the rooftops everything I had learned, and including a stress management class and all of these practices of meditation and mindfulness and breath and yoga and all the movement practices, everything, all the yummy practices, right?
Mhm.
And mindfulness is the one that has carried me through almost everything.
Mhm.
I had a traumatic brain injury in about, it was 2013, and it was pretty intense. And at the end of my journey, as my brain was starting to heal, one of the recognitions that I had was I can be present. And it needs to be a moment to moment presence for me
Mhm.
to be here and not stuck in whatever's going on in my head in the healing process.
Mhm.
And what was really fascinating about that experience is as I became more present in my day to day, my brain rewired and reconnected, even to thoughts that I had had, conversations that I had had when my memory was not functional. It was so amazing. The human brain is amazing and
Mhm.
what it can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you started off by sharing a little bit about your morning rituals, and then we got sidetracked. So you mentioned breath work, you've got a mindfulness practice. So what else? You bring in your
Yeah.
presence.
Well, I kind of have a variety pack. It depends on what's happening in my life.
Sure.
Um, since about mid-January, I've really been focusing on heart opening work, especially in like heart opening kriyas, because I feel like we're in very difficult times right now. And these are the kinds of things that used to close my heart. And I don't want to live in this time like that. And I had this really interesting experience a couple of years ago when I was in a yoga immersion. Um, Jaidev Singh at Life Force Academy took us through a breath practice that I'd never done before, and so that was kind of interesting to my nervous system. Like, what is this? You know, just keep going, just keep breathing and see what happens. Right? I get halfway through that practice, which was maybe 11, 15 minutes, something like that. I get halfway through that practice and I felt these bindings just fly off my heart. And I can't explain that to a cardiologist. That doesn't really translate. But
Not at all.
but that's
Because
what
it was energetic, right?
that's what it was. And I was like, wow, I see that happened. That was had been there for so long. I forgot it was even there, and I have no idea what it was about, but I sure felt it when it released. And I was like, wow. And it changed my life. It changed I had more compassion. I already had compassion, more self-compassion, right? I had more tenderness in the face of, chronic pain patient. I can fight with anything. Like I can fight, and I fought with chronic pain for 40 years. Like I'm a
Sure.
fighter. I've got fight in me. That's not the issue. The issue is can we try something else besides fighting? Can we
Yes. Put the armor down.
can we find some softness and some gentleness and some ease and some self-compassion for even when I get to fight again, right on the inside? Can we find a way to find peace in there? And that Kriya was a big part of that. Was another piece. Was the only piece, but it was a more recent one. And that's what got me on this path of I have to do more heart opening stuff because there's stuff there I don't even know it's there, but it's there. Right. So
Right, right.
if anything, it's there it's there generationally, right?
Exactly. Which actually is a nice segue into the other work that you do with the intergenerational trauma and ancestral clearing. So I'd love to get a little bit into that. And so, what are the tools that you use to help other people with their intergenerational stuff?
Yeah. Well, first of all, kind of an understanding that it's a thing. Like it's
Sure, it's a
actually a
thing.
thing.
Yes.
So it's like I didn't just go woo-woo here. I do have I was trained as a scientific researcher, and I have a degree in plant science, and I've studied biology and ecosystems and all that kind of stuff. And I do have I'm a little geeky about evolution. I'm real
Ooh, like
interested
it.
in like, kind of looking at what we know, what we think we understand about evolution. And I made that statement very carefully, what we think we understand about it, because,
Right.
right. So,
Do we really know anything?
but we see trends and we see patterns and those inform, right? So I have this tendency and the thing about spiritual teachers have been telling us for thousands of years, we come into this life with the gifts and the burdens of our ancestors. Well, science has actually said, actually, that's true. Right? There have actually been studies done, right? So, as an example, for humans, there's been studies done on mammals. I won't get into those now, but you could look them up. Um,
Sure.
Rachel Yehuda and her team did some really amazing, some really interesting studies on populations whose ancestors had been in the Holocaust versus populations who nobody had been in the Holocaust, didn't have that experience, and she
Mhm.
found that people that had been exposed to the Holocaust and their children, right, have they process stress differently. So the
Mm.
grandchildren, and I have clients that are children and grandchildren of people that were in the Holocaust.
My partner is a grandchild or great grandchild. I'm not totally sure of
That
the
too.
timing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And that leaves an imprint. And and Rachel Yehuda actually was able to measure it in terms of the ways they handle stress differently. So
wow.
I was just like, yes, because I've had an experience of, I first experienced ancestral clearing as a modality. They call it an energy, it's classified as an energy medicine modality, but
Yes,
we don't practice medicine. We're not doing that. We're addressing the spiritual aspects of people's stuff, but we're not
yes.
practicing medicine in any stretch. Um, I first noticed that I first experienced it in Dr. Prescott's program because he had John Newton there, who's with healthbeyondbelief.com. He had John Newton come in and do ancestral clearing with us. And
Oh, wow.
I had no idea what was coming, but I could guarantee you I had my science hat on when I was in that room. Right? Like measuring everything. What is this? Can we repeat it? All things like, trying to
Right?
categorize and identify. Like, that was the way that I learned at that time. That was the way I went to see. I will whoop right up into my logical mind, quote unquote, logical mind. That's where I found safety. Right. So I
Yeah.
understand this, right? I don't understand much anything else, but I understand this, so I'm safe here. That's kind of so no wonder I'm doing work on the heart, which I'm trying to figure out what is my heart saying because it doesn't speak in words. So
It does not.
it's a very interesting adventure to spend time focusing on my heart instead of escaping up into the mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yes, yes, most definitely. I call myself a heart-centered practitioner, so I can definitely relate to that
Yeah.
idea
Yeah.
of, being in conversation with your heart and having practices to open the heart. I think it's a very important thing. Have you ever heard of the Institute of Heart Math?
Oh, of course, yes. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So one of the things I've shared is about this concept of heart coherence.
Yeah.
And I've taught the meditation of how to connect to the heart and open the heart space.
Mhm.
And so this is something that is very near and dear to my heart. Um, grammar. The idea that you can be more in alignment with your soul or alignment with your truth by connecting your mind and your heart and having that coherence in conversations and in
Mhm.
relationships where you're really in touch with your whole self and not just your ego and your mind, that
Mhm.
you're actually in your body and you're experiencing the conversation everywhere, not just,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean,
And,
talk about depth, right?
and in yoga, because I'm also a yoga teacher like you, in yoga, and I had to learn how to carry myself differently when I learned this. I learned this early on. We carry ourselves so that our shoulders are relaxed back and down. We're sitting up straight, shoulders relaxed back and down, heart is raised. Chin is in just a little bit so the back of the neck is flat. And what does that do? It puts the heart in front of the head. So the heart is leading. And we actually physically, and when that's a thing, but we're actually physically representing that as in our posture. And I was used to
Yeah, this closed in.
and what does this do when we slouch like this?
Oh,
Well,
it messes up everything, all of
I'm
my shoulders.
yeah,
I feel it everywhere.
I'm closing, I'm protecting my heart.
Yes.
And I'm closing off the air, so I don't even have full access to the breath, to the lungs, which is a huge piece of our healing.
Yeah.
Right. So that was very helpful to me in yoga. Just that simple adjustment, it changed my just that. If that had just done that, it would have been a huge that was a huge shift. Yeah. So to get back to the ancestral stuff, ancestral clearing is based on the understanding that, like I said, we come into this life with the gifts and burdens of our ancestors, and some of those burdens aren't really serving us. And I give you an example. Uh, I I felt the burden of my family when I was 4 years old. I couldn't have explained to you in words what it
Mhm.
was, but I knew I felt it. I felt the weight, and I knew nobody was talking about it, but it was so obvious, right? And everybody was
Yeah.
carrying it, including me. And it wasn't really until I got into this work because nobody wanted to hear what I had to say about anything, especially something like that. Anything that was unpleasant was not discussed in our household or
Hmm.
in the culture I was
Hmm.
raised in. We just didn't talk about
Right?
things, right? Therapists were not a thing. Like I was like, this is a different world we live in now. And,
Really is.
and it's like, yes. So I carried this for a long time, and it wasn't until I got into ancestor clearing that I was like, oh, I see what this is. And I don't have to carry it anymore. And it changed my life because I got lighter. It's like, oh, that's their stuff, right?
Yep.
That was really
Yep.
important. Now, the other thing that was kind of interesting, and I love to share a process. I can take everybody into an actual ancestor clearing, so they'll experience it. But one of the things so I was very hung up on my family and their story. And I carried it as a burden for years. And I was able to release the weight of it. But what was interesting is I still had the story in my head. Oh my
Mm.
God, my family. And I felt that. I felt the oh my God, my family. I felt that piece. And because my family has an interesting peppered history. And
Yeah.
and I felt that piece, but not as the weight. It was more like I did something wrong kind of weight, that kind of thing. And
Mm.
it's like, it's my fault kind of weight, which it's the mind, that's the ego doing what it does. But I'm just saying that's
Yeah.
what I was going through. So I literally went into meditation one summer back in like 2017 or something and sat with the question, who would I be without the story of my family?
Mm.
And that was very interesting because I had carried the story for so long. I had to unravel that out of my nervous system.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah, for
it was
sure.
in there, man. And so, the answer to that ended up being, I don't know, but let's find out. It was kind of like that. But I was able to release not all, but most of the weight of that story. I still feel like there's a little fragment in there, but it was in there a long time. So I give myself
Sure.
grace to like it takes the time it takes to heal our stuff, right?
It does. It does. And I think patience is a big part of this journey and recognizing it's going to take that time and it's not going to be an overnight process. And instant gratification is not a thing in the healing
Well,
journey.
I would push back on that just a little bit,
Okay.
okay? Because if you look at it from the quantum point of view, in the present moment, all possibility is here,
Oh, that's true.
right? So
Oh, that is
so
so
let
true.
so so let's not get hung up in the story. It's going to take
Yep.
time,
Yep. Okay. Okay.
or
Thank
it's
you.
not going to be
Thank you,
instant.
Elizabeth.
That's
Yes.
okay. I bet because I've been down this road. Let's not get hung up on that. This is where I am now, and I'm okay. And because I'm telling you, I have tried to push my body, and it's hilarious. I remember like back in 2014, I was in a yoga class with my friend Todd, who's taking me through a yoga class, and my body's, he's taking me through new stuff, and my body tends to go into um, like a freeze mode or an excitement when he tries to somebody trying to get into a new pose, and it's like
Hmm.
what, kind of thing, and it's just an old trauma response. And so
Sure.
we have to stop and breathe, and then we start again, and we breathe, and we by the third time, the body's like, "Oh, you really meant to do this? Okay, let's do it." Right? So it's like that. I had a class like that. He took me through probably an hour and a half of a few different versions of that. we get down in the into savasana, which is just lying down and allowing the body to integrate all that information, and you just relax. And my legs started spasming. And I went, it was so funny. And I was like, hey, we're in savasana. Stop that. It's like I started laughing at myself. Like, really? Your poor body's trying to process all this stuff and you're telling it what to do? It's going to heal at the rate it's going to heal. And your comment about how it's doing it is not helping.
Oh, where would we be if we stopped judging everything?
Just so funny. Oh my God. But that's what we do, right? We decide this is how it's going to happen. And maybe it will and maybe it won't.
Maybe it will and maybe it won't. Exactly. So that belief that it's going to take time, yeah, that's been stuck in me for God knows how long, mostly because it has taken time. You know,
Yeah.
so I call myself a self-healing specialist, and this whole process of healing, yeah, it's been 20 something years.
Mm.
So time definitely. But then coming from that perspective of the quantum healing, as an Akashic practitioner, I've found this practice that, you can actually heal trauma in the
Yeah.
Akash.
Yeah.
So there
Sure.
is a way to heal it in the moment
Yeah.
and move in a
Well,
place of absolute like peace
yeah.
after that experience. Yeah,
Yeah. So
it
so
is
the
possible.
Akashic world, because I've got other friends, colleagues that do that work, and they've taken me through their. It's very similar to ancestral clearing. We're in the same space. We don't call it the
Sure.
same thing, but we're in the same space, which is we're all working in the present moment, which gives us access to the past, present, and future all at once.
Yes.
And it's very interesting. I would use the words a little bit differently, because we just but we're all saying the same thing. In ancestral clearing, we're helping people release the effects that they're feeling of the trauma, of the
Mm,
intergenerational trauma, right? Which is like freaking worry energy, like that isn't mine, but it's the way I came in,
sure.
or a thousand other things that we come in with. When you think about it, and this blew me away when I found out about it. When our grandmother is pregnant with our mother, at the 4 month mark, the eggs that our mother's going to carry develop. So we're in our mother and our grandmother for 5 months at the same time. We're sharing space with mother and grandmother.
Yep.
So we've got those energies that we're developing in, right? Plus, that whole time that mother's growing until our egg develops, and right. So
Yep.
that's interesting. Well, now let's take it a step further. Our grandmother was in her grandmother.
Yep.
So we've been sharing energy with all the mothers down the line for generations.
Yep.
And so when people ask me ancestor clearing, what the heck is that? I'm referring to that. I mean, I like to keep a foot in science and try and make it kind of accessible instead of like, I don't do well with woo woo anyway. You gotta ground woo woo for me in something that I can, hang my hat on, or I'm just gonna
Yes.
go right over
Yep.
my head.
Right. Well, and I'm completely off the deep end in the woo-woo world because I'm a psychic medium, and I do all kinds of things in the quantum field that definitely, if you don't believe, it doesn't matter. But if you
That's
don't
true. Yeah,
believe,
that's right. Yeah,
there's this cognitive dissonance that happens.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
humans are amazing.
Oh, we're talking about cognitive dissonance. I'm going to go back just a minute. Remember, we were talking about dissociating.
Mhm.
One of the reasons that I do the work that I do, and that I build my focus in my work now, my personal practice, is to build presence, is because I have this tendency to dissociate. Is part of the strategy I use for years and years and years to stay safe. And I
Right.
and I swear I'm still like I'm right here doing whatever it is, and a part of me does this, and I'm like, come back here. We're here. Right? But I know what it is now. I didn't used to know. I'm just like, what's happening here? Right? It's just an old habit that's
Yep,
asserting itself again, and I'm retraining it. Right?
yep,
This is part
yep,
of staying safe is dissociating, and anybody in chronic pain, the nervous system can only handle so much, right? And it's going to try and find a way to find safety in some way
yep.
because it's not safe
Disassociation
where it
is the
is. So it's good,
safety.
and
Yes.
that's a way
Yep.
that's an aversion of that's the closest the nervous system can find to safety. That's a version of shut down to just like I'm shutting down, I'm hiding. That's another one. I mean, there's different
Yeah.
ways we can do it, but the nervous system, these things that we do, these are all strategies for trying to find safety in a place where like I don't even remember what safety is anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I was using disassociation during that time to disassociate from three-dimensional reality and going completely into spirit. I was like, okay, I am way safer up there with my spirit guides and my healing team up there than I am in this physical body because in the physical body it, it was disappointing me in every moment. I couldn't function. I didn't have the functional abilities, didn't have the processes. I didn't have the ability to remember things. The brain trauma was a
Yeah.
significant
Oh,
experience. And
yeah.
yet I had the wherewithal to disassociate and live in a connection with my higher self and my spirit guides.
What a
I could
blessing.
do that
Yeah.
as a medium. And I thought, okay, if this is my path to healing, then there's got to be something in this. And I didn't actually come out to the world as a medium until 2023. That was 10 years later. I said, hey guys, I have this ability and I don't know what to do with it, but this is what I'm here for. And oh man, it's been amazing since then what
Yeah.
has happened and the openings that have happened as a result of that. But um okay, so let's do you mentioned taking us through a little bit
Yeah.
of
Sure.
an ancestral healing. I would love to do that before we close, so that would be
Sure.
wonderful. Is there anything else you want to cover before that?
Well, I just like to explain what it is.
Okay,
So
sure.
it's a spiritual practice, as I said before. And what we do is we call on source, creator, divine, infinite, whatever you call all of that that created all of this. We call on it to help us release that which no longer serves us. And we do it with gratitude and humility. So we say please and thank you. And we use the word forgive very specifically to mean offer up that which no longer serves us. So source, forgive, please and thank you is kind of
Okay.
the where we're going. And then in the what we're forgiving about is the practice. So how we do this is I want everybody listening, and then the replay is just as powerful as the live because it's all through the present moment, remembering we can access the past, present, and future all at once. So the power is in the present. Stay present. Just notice what you're feeling as sensation in the body. Like I could feel my sitting bones on the chair, my feet on the floor, my back on the back of the chair. And I took some niacin earlier and I've got a little bit of the shadow of the flush. I can feel a little bit of that in the fascia. Um, And so my sensation level from 0 to 10 in this moment is about a 2.5, maybe a 3. And whatever yours is, just whatever scales is 0 to 10, what's the level of intensity of the sensation you're feeling? Breathe normally, stay present, and let these words
Okay.
pass over you. I call that the ancestor clearing for your soul evolution. Divine Creator, all that you are, thank you for your infinite gifts and blessings. We ask humbly and gratefully that you please help us, all versions of us, all our relationships, and all our ancestors and all their relationships that are all space, time, dimension, realms, lifetimes, and incarnations, for any hurts and wrongs done to us, any hurts and wrongs we did to others, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and any time we turned hurt into ourselves. Please help us all forgive one another and forgive ourselves, please and thank you. For all the imprints of ancestral trauma from wars, enslavement, genocide, displacement, oppression, and any injustice or other hardships that was never acknowledged, processed, or healed. For all the pain of losing our homeland, culture, language, and ways of life, and the grief of being severed from our ancestral identity. For the impact of poverty, famine, deprivation, and economic collapse, and the scarcity mindsets born from them. Please help us all to forgive one another and forgive ourselves, please and thank you. For any and all secrets, the betrayals, the hidden shames, and unspoken truths that created a legacy of silence, mistrust, and confusion, and how it weighed on us. Please help us all forgive one another and forgive ourselves, please and thank you. For all patterns of abuse, physical, emotional, spiritual, sexual, or financial, and any empathic hurts and wrongs, repeated across generations without acknowledgement, justice, or repair. Please help us all to forgive one another and forgive ourselves, please and thank you. For all abandonment wounds, the pain of exile, when we or our ancestors were cast out from the community, family, or belonging in any other way for who we were or what we believed. When parents, caregivers, or loved ones were physically, emotionally, or spiritually unavailable or left altogether. For survival-based parenting, when fear, control, and trauma shaped the way we were raised as children, leaving love conditional or absent altogether. Please help us all to forgive one another and forgive ourselves, please and thank you. For all the burden we carry from religious persecution, distortion, or control, and for when spiritual authority was used to punish, manipulate, or separate us from the truth. Please help us all forgive one another and forgive ourselves, please and thank you. For all patterns of addiction in the lineage, substances, work, control, food, money, or relationships that numbed pain but deepened suffering. For all the wounds of medical trauma, injury, chronic illness, or mistreatment that broke trust in the body, in healing, or in systems meant to care for us. Please help us all forgive one another and forgive ourselves, release one another and release ourselves, please and thank you. For all relational betrayal trauma, infidelity, abandonment, or emotional neglect, and for the patterns of mistrust they imprinted in our families and in us. For all enmeshment, codependency, and blurred boundaries where individuality was unsafed or punished. For the wounding of patriarchal oppression and where women's voices, rights, and sacred gifts were silenced, devalued, persecuted, or erased altogether. Please help us all forgive one another and forgive ourselves, please and thank you. For every time grief was avoided, denied, or forbidden to be expressed, leaving it frozen in our hearts and carried forward, and for the generations of unspent tears that followed in the lineage down to us. For all intergenerational shame, for the masks we wore, the truths we hid, and the self-worth that was diminished across generations. Please help us all forgive one another and forgive ourselves, please and thank you. For every time our sacred connection to Source was lost, blocked, or replaced with fear, control, or other limiting beliefs about who we truly are. Please help us all forgive one another and forgive ourselves, please and thank you. For the times we hardened and armored our hearts to the world because of what happened to us and all it meant to us about ourselves, others, the community, life, and even you, Source. For the times we lost faith in ourselves, turned our backs on others and you, Source. For the times others turned their backs on us and lost faith in us. Please help us all forgive one another and forgive ourselves, please, and thank you. For any time we acted in such a way that we lost compassion for ourselves, judged ourselves unforgivable. For any time others lost compassion for us and held unfailing resentment toward us. Or any time we were unable to release our unhealthy attachments to the past, please help us all forgive one another and forgive ourselves, please and thank you. Please help us all release one another and release ourselves for all that happened, no matter what it was, for once and for all, everyone involved, directly or indirectly, please and thank you. Please help us know deeply and always for ourselves the love that we are, experience its constancy, and feel ourselves expand into its vast, infinite field. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. And now take a nice big breath in and let it out and just notice how that feels compared to when you started.
You know what? I was sitting here watching and feeling my body relax during that entire process. I even like my face relaxed. I felt my whole head relaxed, my brain settled in. Like, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah. I love this practice so much. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that, oh, if more people knew that there was access to healing in this way,
Mhm.
like we would heal the world. And that's really the whole point of this podcast and why we're doing what we're doing. You
Exactly.
know? Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
Beautiful,
it's possible to
beautiful.
heal. We have doctors that tell us we can't heal. We have to live with this thing. And I'm like,
Right.
that you're telling me more about the limitation of the model you're working under than you're telling me about the ability, the body's ability to heal.
Yes, absolutely. I have one of my favorite books that I found, scientifically based book, Spontaneous Healing. It
Oh,
has
that's
been
Lisa.
for,
That's Lisa. I know her. Yeah, she's
yes,
great.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, oh, this has been such a rich conversation. I cannot wait to share this. Okay, now in closing, I would love for you to share how people can get in touch with you, Elizabeth.
Sure, you can find me at my website. That's Elizabeth Kipp Central, which is Elizabeth with a dash, and then my last name, Kipp, KIPP.com. You can find lots of free resources there, all my social media. You can contact me there. You can book a session there, et cetera, et cetera. There's ancestral clearing prayers there. You just have to put the dash between my first and last name. Otherwise, you'll get the other Elizabeth Kipp, who's a web designer and a photographer who's amazing, but she's not me. So,
Okay, wonderful. Now we're going to include all of your links in the description in the YouTube, so y'all will find that. And one last thing, what kind of inspiration would you like to leave our audience with today?
oh, thank you for the question. So, the greatest healer in your life lives in you,
Mm.
not in a doctor, not in any other healthcare practitioner. A doctor can set a bone and stitch up a wound and give you a protocol to follow, but only the body knows how to heal,
Yeah.
right? So our job is to like follow the protocol the healers give us is our best estimate of what's, and use your discretion, like what works for you, and then get out of the way. Let the body heal, as in
Yes.
release judgment, and it should happen faster and all the things, right? The greatest healer lives here. So your orientation needs to be into the infinite that lives within. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, most definitely. Oh my goodness. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Oh, well, thank you, Stephanie. I really appreciate your platform, and thank you for inviting me to be a guest.
Mm, beautiful. Have a wonderful day.